Well, there was a welter of news, we could say, this week, which means we've got a lot to talk about today with our Powerhouse Roundtable.
Well, let's tell you who's with us this morning first. Stephen Johnson is a Miami attorney who chairs Miami-Dade County's Black Affairs Advisory Board, and he is also the president of the 100 Black Men of South Florida. Marily Cancio is an attorney with her own name firm in Miami, very active in the Republican Party locally and nationally. And Chris Smith is an attorney in Fort Lauderdale and active in the Democratic Party locally and nationally. He is a former state rep and a state senator from Broward County. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Great to have you.
Get your own law firm here this morning.
You know, I was just thinking that there's
two non-lawyers.
a lot
right
of
here.
lawyers with a timed show. This could be fun.
Yeah. Stephen, let me begin by asking, I want to hear from each of you, but let me begin by asking you, we heard Congressman Diaz-Balart express, disappointment, a sadness that these kids who are down there, 2,500 or so, at this detention facility won't be able to go to class, won't be able to have any recreation outdoors. All these programs are being cut back, but he says, well, if the Democrats would agree and give us the money, we'd be able to do it. I mean, what's your take?
Interesting. The congressman actually says $750 per day per child. There are 1,000 children there. That's $750,000. They want to go.
There's
to
almost 3,000.
Well, they
children
wanted.
there.
When I saw, they wanted to expand it to 3,000.
Yeah.
That's going to be $2.1 million a day. So you can't find an hour for soccer. Soccer balls are not that expensive, and that's what they're paying now.
That's sad to hear, but the fact that legal representation is being curtailed, Mary Lee, that almost sounds like it's an inviting and a lawsuit of some sort. That's statutory, that's constitutional. How is that even possible?
I think last time I was in the show, we talked about these mind-boggling numbers of $750 per person and all the millions of dollars per day. The problem is the numbers of people that are coming illegally, and these facilities are overcrowded. There's no more money for more border security, and I think the funding is the main issue. As Congressman Diaz-Balart mentioned, we need the funding. Without the funding, they're going to have to focus on security, the well-being, feeding these children.
But how do you not provide legal representation for a legal migrant? That just defies
it's almost
logic.
If these kids are being held hostage, their legal representation, their physical attributes, their everything they're going through is being held hostage in this political game of, okay, is this a crisis? How much we're going to pay for it and stuff? Whereas we need to focus on making sure these kids that are in our custody are being taken care of. And it's like they're being held hostage by politicians.
Well, these psychologists, lawyers who have filed a suit, in response to, they believe, violating the Flores Agreement, which says the government can hold children up to 20 days and then have to place them with either family or sponsors. These kids are down there. I mean, Glenna, you've been there. Sometimes they're down there for months while they are being processed. Now, to give the Caliburn Company its due, since it opened, I read that there are 12,000 kids who have gone through that facility. 9,700 have been placed and are out. But, I mean, the idea that 3,000 kids are going to be down there all day, Marilee, without classes, without a recreation. I mean, these are kids 13 to 17. What do you expect?
My granddaughter, who's here in the studio with me, she goes to public school and she doesn't have recess, and it's also a matter of funding. So I agree with you that we need to find a way to be able to care for these kids properly.
You know what was very interesting to me reporting this week? The fact that they have to withhold services is an act. It's called the Anti-Deficiency Act. You can't provide services that aren't being funded. But part of the Anti-Deficiency Act is they cannot accept volunteer services. So people, I've gotten calls, how can I help the kids in Homestead? People who want to volunteer maybe for legal representation or a coach so they can play soccer. Under the act are not allowed to do that.
That adds to what I said, playing of politics with kids. It's like we're going to make our point and we're going to make people suffer, and you see it all the time in politics and the whole realm, not just this. But let's make people suffer to truly push the point and try and get some change, and to not allow volunteers down there to coach soccer, to teach English and those things.
Well, Miami-Dade County School Superintendent Alberto Carvalho, on a number of occasions, has said, "Let us in. We will provide the teachers. We will teach these kids." But this is a federal facility which is outside the realm of state law.
HHS addressed that, actually. HHS reps in Homestead said that they had gone to the district for teachers, but teachers can't be provided for a temporary job. That was HHS reaction to that.
And well, let me say this. We've got to figure a way out of this, and I'll tell you why. There's a lot of talk these days about whether or not America's great or making it great. You can't be great without being magnanimous. And you can't be magnanimous if you're going to have children sitting, for all intents and purposes, in 24-hour lockdown with nothing to do, no education, no recreation. That's absurd. The congressman said you wouldn't want your children there, but it's okay. No. No education, no recreation. We wouldn't want anyone's children there.
Well, isn't the answer speeding up the process to get them out?
Well, look, listen.
And that's there is a backlog.
And we are
how do you do
having
that?
political fights right now about what that process is. Look, the Senate has said we're not going to take up the Dreamers Act of 2019. Great, wonderful. At some point, we need to figure out what we're going to do about this problem, and it's not a one-shot solution. It has to be holistic because it's a problem we all have.
Yeah.
I agree.
All right, so hold your thoughts, everybody. We've got so much more to talk about with the Roundtable when we come back. We're glad to have you back with us live in our studio this morning. We are in the midst of a really interesting roundtable with Stephen Johnson, Marilee Concio, Chris Smith. Marilee, we also spoke with Congressman Diaz-Balart about the fact that he was one of 7 Republicans who voted for the Dream and Promise Act, which would give a path to citizenship for not just Dreamers, but people with TPS, 2.5 million migrants who are in this country who need legal status, but that's going nowhere in the Senate.
And that is because the Senate, controlled by Republicans, wants a comprehensive solution to immigration reform.
Well, can't you do this incrementally?
Well, I agree with Congressman Diaz-Balart, and I am in favor of helping Dreamers as soon as possible. But what's going to happen 2 years from now when we have hundreds of thousands of people coming, 144,000 last month.
Yeah.
We've had more people come in the first 5 months of 2019 than the entire 2018. So we're going to have this problem again 2 years from now, 5 years from now.
But are the Dreamers and the people who are included in this particular bill are a set number of people?
Yeah.
I mean, there's a line
At
there.
some point, to go to a football analogy, at some point you got to get a first down and not just try to get that touchdown.
Why is it always sports? It always goes to sports.
He's a Seminole.
But no, it's a Seminole. I'm getting ready. But I mean, this is a great first down. Now, the House passed it, and we see our local delegation, who is is deeply embedded in this, are supporting it. And this is a time when the Senate can say, okay, let's take this off the table as we move forward and try to get comprehensive immigration reform. But at least on this, we all agree, let's get this off the table and move it forward.
And I think the American people support it. The
Yes.
majority of Americans
They
support
do.
that.
Yeah.
Let me
Polls
tell you,
indicate that.
we just did, the 100 Black Men in South Florida just did a program for children at one of the Miami high schools. It was a financial literacy program. 2 of the children, at the end of the program, we gave everyone a check for participating so that they can go get banked and do the things that you would do
That's
with
great.
your financial literacy. 2 of the children were unbanked because of their immigration status. And now we're struggling with
They
that.
couldn't open a bank account?
Exactly. And we're talking about high school seniors who had been here since they were children.
So they are the Dreamers?
They literally, if you're thinking about who these people are, they go to school with your children, you work next to them every day. They're going to find themselves not being able to participate in this greater thing we call the American dream, and that's what's wrong. We've got to fix it. And Republicans could actually take a ballywick from the Democrats by saying, you know what? Yeah, here's your path. Now give me my wall.
You know, it's
That would be scary for a Democrat like me. That'd be the scariest thing in the world.
As a matter of fact, even the Washington Post, I think, center-left newspaper last year said, all right, give the Dreamers a path to citizenship and fund some of the wall.
Yeah.
So it's not an impossible.
But that wasn't on the table
proposal.
last year, I believe.
It was.
Yes, that was on the table last year, and the Democrats refused it. So they continue to play politics on both sides.
There was an election going on at the time. You can't do those things. But what I'm saying is, and it's interesting, immigration, and we've talked about earlier, it's going to require a holistic approach. And on some of these, we need to make sure that folks have a path to citizenship. And on others, we need to stem a tide that's coming.
So, right, but to Michael's point, the holistic approach is critical, but you have a specific problem here, and they are dreamers, 800,000 plus 1.6 million more because
They
there
didn't
are the
register.
dreamers are registered. The government knows where to find them, and so that's a scary prospect for them. And then there's all this 1.6 who are not registered, and so these are people with a very specific problem that is addressed in this bill.
Yeah, and we'll have to deal with this huge influx that is coming, down the road. If I can, let's kind of pivot here. I want to look at a big story out of Broward County this week. And Chris Smith, let me ask you about this. Scott Peterson, former school resource officer at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas, is charged with child abuse and neglect and perjury. These charges against a police officer for failing to do his job, are just unprecedented. What do you think? You're a good lawyer. What do you think's going to happen here?
Well, I think it opens up Pandora's box, because just think about your viewers, and something you guys covered tremendously was the incident in Coral Springs where the officers pepper sprayed the child and took him to the ground and gave him kidney punches. I mean, that's child neglect, that's child abuse, and I mean, we see it constantly. So by charging this officer with these crimes, now the state attorneys in both counties have opened themselves up to, every time we see these types of incidents, okay, if child abuse is not going in and doing your job, what about taking a kid down?
I should have said it's child neglect.
Child neglect.
I think is the actual charge. But it's interesting, Marilee, the Broward State Attorney, Mike Satz, we're going to talk about him later, issued a statement late this week that said, hey, this is kind of a one-off. Don't worry if you're a police officer. We're not going to just regularly
right there, that's completely wrong. The law doesn't operate like that.
Right.
There's no one-off in the statute.
There isn't. And the thing is, now that teachers could have guns in the classroom, for example. So now you're going to accuse a teacher for not using a gun if they had it, and so it complicates
A
matters.
firefighter not going into a building
And it all
at a
comes
certain time.
To your point, it's a caregiver is the
Yes,
word.
caregiver.
Because
Yes.
I think we all looked at that and heard these charges being levied and thought, well, wait a second. I mean, the guy might be a coward. He might have not done something, but is he a criminal? But the caregiver who is a caregiver in
So
this
the statute
society?
says it's custody or control, and the question is, what control did this resource officer have over 1,000 children that were in Parkland? Probably not much.
Custody?
That's the argument. But then what about the lunch lady? Like, where are we stopping when we're going down this road of who's got custody of our kids?
Okay, well,
those
can I just
teachers-
address the lunch lady has a responsibility to serve lunch.
And if
A police officer has a responsibility to protect. That is a
If the lunch-
custodial
if
type
the
of.
lunch lady sees a fight in the cafeteria and does nothing, has she not taken any action? Has she not intervened, and is that neglect? That's the problem with what they're doing.
It's just a one-off. Don't worry about
Yeah, I
it.
know, right?
But one thing I wanted to bring up that I looked at, I actually read the arrest warrant and I read the probable cause. This brings up some interesting
Peterson,
concerns,
yeah.
yes, about Scott Israel, because the warrant for him says that Peterson was trained to do this, and that there were procedures in place for him to go in and save those kids. And now you have Israel facing a Senate hearing saying that you did not properly train and you did not have procedures.
Yeah.
You can't have it both ways, with FDLE saying Peterson was trained and he had procedures. So this brings an interesting twist to
But
this
isn't that
Scott Israel.
administrative? That's an administrative infraction.
But if you remove Scott Israel saying you did not properly train and you did not have procedures, but now FDLE arrests an officer saying that he was properly trained and he had procedures, there is one or the other.
As a caregiver.
And
All right, everybody, hold on, hold to your thoughts. We've got to come back. We're going to talk a little bit about the future of Mike Satz and also the Broward State Attorney's Office. Stay with us. Welcome back. We are in the midst of a kind of rock and roll roundtable, actually very thoughtful, not so much rock and roll. Chris Smith, you are a veteran of Broward politics. You've been elected State House and the State Senate from Fort Lauderdale. Now, Mike Satz, I'm going to ask you, given your history of involvement, Mike Satz has been the Broward State Attorney since 1976. He announced this week he will not run for re-election, going to devote full time to preparing to be the lead prosecutor in the Nicholas Cruz case. So, what do you say?
I mean, he's been state attorney since I was at Broward Estates Elementary School.
Ouch. Mr. Satz, we apologize for that comment.
But no, I think Mike has done a great job, and I mean, the diversity in his office he's had for years. But, and like you say, sometimes it's good to have some turnover and see some new direction. But I mean, it creates, if you look at, for years we had Markham at property appraiser, Satz had state attorney, you had, our constitutional officers were so stable for years, but now you see a change, and those changes happen. He got in under change with coming in with Jimmy Carter, as we've read, but now things are changing and it's time to move forward.
Right. Howard Finkelstein is also going to be leaving at the end of this term as the Broward public defender. So the old guard is changing in Broward and in Miami-Dade as well. The Miami-Dade Commission is going to change profoundly
tremendously
next year.
It's actually an exciting time. Any sort of change like this, if it's wholesale, it's an exciting time because you're going to hear a lot of new ideas. People are going to discuss different points of view, and hopefully, the population gets to learn something or think about something, take a position on something.
Is there a difference? The Miami-Dade Commission will be changing largely because term limits are now imposed. Is there a difference between stability in a justice system with a state attorney, with a prosecutor, with a public defender, and turnover there versus turnover in elected policy-making body?
But these are elected positions as well, and 45 years seems to me like a really, really long time.
A lifetime.
Right.
For
So,
some, right?
you know, term limits, I think it's positive. 8 years, I don't know if it's enough. 12. I mean, how many terms? I just think that when you have someone there for over 20 years in one position, I mean, most of us don't have the same job.
And state
for 20
attorney
years,
is a
30
policy-making
Right.
position because for years I was very critical of Mike Satz in his charging of juveniles as adults. He kind of led the nation in that for years, and then he started pulling back from that. And even this charge against an officer, you haven't really seen this from him or other state's attorneys. And so they are policy-making positions, even as a state attorney or a public defender. And sometimes it's good to have those change in policymakers.
What do you think about, Stephen, what do you think about him as the lead prosecutor in the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas case? Why would a state attorney decide, I'm going to be the one to do this particular case?
Well, a couple of reasons. One, it appears to be a pretty open and shut case, so he's not going to really have a high degree of chance of losing it. But I think
I was not expecting that answer.
I mean, you know, and that's my legal opinion. But two, and I think more importantly, because if you've spent over 40 years of your life doing something, taking this step, this profound step, this prosecution, you could arguably not have had a more important prosecution.
It's
Your
a legacy,
tenure.
a legacy
Yes.
case.
It
It
will
will
be remembered.
A nice way to, you know, to end the chapter.
And he's done a lot of cases. I mean, he's done a lot of murder cases. I remember talking to him and Chuck Morton, his number two for many years. I mean, they've tried a lot of cases together, so it's not like he's stepping back into the courtroom. He's done this for a while, and I think this will be a good one.
In the final minute we have left, we just do want to acknowledge the fact that this week we lost one of the really great ones here at Local 10 News, Todd Tongan. We are heartbroken. We had a big memorial service yesterday, a lot of tears, a lot of laughter too, told some funny stories, but I want to thank people at home. They have inundated us with cards and texts and emails expressing their sympathy for our loss.
I'm wearing my purple because of Todd. And yesterday I watched the tribute of all the employees speaking about him, and I cried at home just watching it. It was very moving.
I can't look at another taxi cab the same way now.
No one can, right?
Thinking about how much information he brought and humor and intellect he brought to South Florida by just driving that cab and having people speak to us. I mean, it meant so much to South Florida.
That is going to be the final word. Thank you all for coming in. Great roundtable.